Hey there, Julian Mcbain here, and welcome to my 24th Saturday vlog. So, first the inevitable housekeeping. We're going to be right here on this island hunting panleons. So, my shire had its event, and the event's called Panteria. And had a freaking blast. Exhausted. As I'm sure you could probably tell by the fact that I missed a video earlier this week and had a couple of really short ones elsewise. Or actually, it was probably only one that was really short because I pre-recorded all my Borderlands ones long ahead of time. Had a blast. Just had a blast. Good people. Good times. Good food. Lots and lots of fighting. And so I guess for this vlog I'm just going to kind of go through all of the things that happened at the event that I participated in, because like I'm sure you're not going to be super interested in what happened on day one because I was doing what we call a troll, which in any other place would be called ticketing. So that started at about 4 p.m. and ended around midnight. Well, technically we closed at 10, but we were still sitting there at midnight drinking and talking and carousing and drinking. We did a lot of drinking. So yeah. Mostly ticketing and drinking and talking happened on Friday night, and so it was a nice way to ease myself back into going to regular events. I mean, I went to the event in January, but this is the first one I've been on staff for in like 3 or 4 years. And I mean, I'm someone who used to be on staff all the time, or not all the time, but at least once a year, usually depending on the time period and what was being run, oftentimes twice. And I was at the point where I was helping out even when I wasn't technically on staff. So it felt really good to be able to actually be useful for a change, and so I did that. And then on Saturday I get up, surprisingly not hungover, because yeah, I expected to be hungover, and then fought from, I think we took the field at 9. Got up, had breakfast, took the field at 9. Did not stop until like dinner time. There was a short break in the middle for lunch. Oh, I did stop because my family came to their very first event. My son came to his first event since he was 2, so that was a lot of fun. Escorted them around for a couple hours and then went back to fighting. So got to fight some people that I fought last year and had a great time fighting them. Can't wait to be able to see them again. Hopefully I'll see them at other events this year. Like last year I didn't go to a whole... In fact, I think this was the only event I went to. I think Panteria was the only event I went to last year. Oof. That's not like me. But I was able to go... I fought some folks that I fought last year. I fought some folks I've never fought before. And just had a blast doing it. And then did a lot of melees. And melees, as it might sound like, is when you have multiple people on teams and you're facing each other. And was Saturday Tavern Brawl? Saturday was Tavern Brawl. So here's what Tavern Brawl is. You have a space that's supposed to be the tavern, right? And the tavern's split into rooms. I mean, it's all by cordons instead of actual walls because, you know, the camp really doesn't want us building a tavern on their grounds. Kind of a shame, really. So you've got two groups. You've got the locals who are defending their bar, and the ruffians who want to steal all the booze. And so first round, both times the defenders won, and we switched after the first round. So, oh, global 34 pet, nice. So in the first round, I was one of the ruffians. And, you know, we go to invade the tavern, and we all fight, and the ruffians all lost. And so then we swapped. And we realized that, you know, there's a back door to this tavern. So we split up and try to distract them while one of our guys sneaks out the back door, runs all the way around the tavern, and then starts stabbing people from behind. We have a... You don't actually stab people in the back. That's dangerous. So instead what you do is you lay your sword on their shoulder, and you get this death from behind thing. Well, he was 90% of the way there. And my fault, I accidentally backed someone into him before he realized that they were that close, and the guy ended up getting stabbed in the back, and that's bad. And so we kind of reviewed it, and, you know, okay, fine, that was kind of a... There was an accident, you know, not everyone was situationally aware. But after review, we're like, okay, we know how to prevent it from happening in the future. And so that was good. And so after that, we did pickups, which is where you just, you know, you talk to each other. And it's like, hey, let's do a couple of rounds. And so that was a lot of fun too. I think I know I fought the majority of people who went. A couple of people got out of armor before I had an opportunity to honestly fight them, or not honestly fight them, but fight them one-on-one. And that was unfortunate, especially since some people were only there for that day. But I know who to look for next time, and I will give it my best shot to fight them in the future. And so next day I went to I get up and I eat and I go to the battlefield, and I bring all my stuff down, and then I see this little sign attached to the chair, and it says, "We're in the woods on the other side of the camp." Ugh! So I put on all my gear and I grabbed my weapons and I pretty much ran to the other end of camp just in time for it to start. So that was a lot of fun. So we fought in a woods battle, and the space we had was actually too large for the number of fighters we had, because this is on Sunday, we only had 8 fighters that stayed. And so that made it harder. But at the same time, it basically what ended up happening, there was a lot of movement. But still, we all had a lot of fun. You're in the woods and you're still fighting. You got to watch your footwork in the woods, because of course there's detritus on the ground. It's not like on a field or in the grass where we always make sure it's completely free of everything. We do our best in the woods, but it's still the woods. So we fought a few rounds there, and then we took a break. And I realized as I'm getting ready to take a break that I'm overheating badly. And having suffered from heat exhaustion in the past, not at this event, but a couple of years ago, I got into a lot of trouble with heat exhaustion. And I realized I was super dehydrated, so I started guzzling water like mad. And so I stripped off all my armor, had some lunch. I think I downed probably half a gallon of water, no joke. I was seriously like downing water faster than I could, almost as fast as I could fill my cup. I have a 12-ounce tankard that I use for these events, and I had a giant jug of water I kept down by the field, and I emptied the jug of water just about, and I downed 3 or 4 more tankards of water before I stopped. And so I managed to cool down. I did what I had to. Now, I wasn't in perfect shape for the tournament. I'm not using that as an excuse, because I lost badly. Like, I got 1 win out of 3... Was it 3 rounds? It was a round robin. Yeah, because there were 6 of us. So, no, I had to fight 5 people. There were 6 of us. Did I do 3 rounds? No, it's round robin. I did 5 rounds. Out of 5 rounds, I won 1. And the person was fighting a style I have fought against a lot. I've actually practiced the style too. It's called Tebow. And Tebow as far as fencing styles go, Tebow is a very stable style. It's Spanish. Its stance is extremely stable. It's not high energy. It doesn't have to be. It's extremely tactical. And it's really good at using your opponent's mistakes against them. Like, that's the strength of Tebow. It's really good at using your opponent's strengths against them. And it's very defensive. Which is not to say that it's not good at killing your opponent. It's great at killing your opponent. But the being a style that I've fought against a lot and that I've fought myself, I know its strengths and I know its weaknesses, and so I was able to win that particular bout. That's not to say that had things just been a little bit different, he wouldn't have beat me, because he came damn close a couple times, like very, very close. So the tournament was there. I got one win out of 5, which I can do better. I've won tournaments before. I've lost tournaments before. I'm not upset. It was the first tournament I've fought in like 2 years, possibly 3, because it was Provost 17 was the last tournament I fought in, which is an event that's held in Piedmont. Piedmont. It's in Sturgis, South Dakota area. No, I'm sorry. It's in Pierre, South Dakota. That one's held in Pierre, because it's only 4 hours from Bismarck and not 6. Come on. There we go. I still had enough universal ammo to heal myself a little bit. That's a lot of mobs on me. That's not so good. I mean, I'm loving that I'm getting all the evade skills, but still. But anyway, so yeah, it was pretty much 2 years almost exactly, because Provost happens in spring. Provost, I think, actually happens in April, but it doesn't matter. Close enough. So getting only 1 win, I'm not super upset about. I'm more irritated that I let myself get the heat exhaustion, and that's why I wasn't at my top form. Because we had some good fighters in the tournament, and so I would suspect that if I didn't place where I placed this particular time, it would not have been much higher. I might have gotten 1 more win. And I couldn't even guarantee against who that might have been. So I'm satisfied with the results of the tournament. I look forward to the next one. I think I'm going to start doing better. I am excited for my new sword blade to come in, so I can replace the blade on my 43-inch. I think that will dynamically change things. I do have my 37. I really enjoy using my 37, but for the style of swordsman so you've got a couple different types of fighters, and it's different from, say, the style of swordsmanship in, like, which master do you follow or which school are you from. But it's more temperament and methodology. So in swordsmanship, I'm what they call a sniper, as a general rule. And what that basically means, for those of you who can't figure it out, is I tend to stand at range, and I pick people's limbs off, or I pick off, their head at maximum range. And so I'm really good with, like, the longest sword possible for the most part. My sweet spot's 43 inches. I haven't figured out why yet, probably because that was my second sword, but at that range, I'm not pezzing people, but I am getting the hits in. I'm not falling short. So that's that. But I do have a 37 because I was extremely non-aggressive, which means I was a riposte fighter. For those who fence, you know what I mean by that. But basically what it was is I would rely on the counterattack to win. And as a general rule, there was a time when I was extremely good at the counterattack. Basically what I'd do is I'd wait for them to come in, and I'd use my offhand to block, and I just put my sword in their way with the hope that they would run themselves onto it. And relatively speaking, I got good at that tactic, but it's not it on its own is not a good way to win fights. And the reason why is because you're always reacting. You're always reacting to your opponent. You are not making them react. And as a rule, if you're reacting and you're not making them react, you're playing to their tune, and you are instantly at a disadvantage. All battles have tempo. They have tempo, they have an ebb, and they have a flow. And humans, as a general rule, and I learned this off of a master of defense that was there, who fights a style called Fabris, which is an Italian style. It's a historical Italian style, which I have a hard time fighting, both against and as, because of the way the stance is. So, in most forms, there are basically three methodologies to sword stances. No, call it four. So you've got a balanced stance, which my style Tiger and Tebow really kind of relies on. You're balanced on both feet. You're not reliant on one foot to carry the weight. You're fairly upright. Now there are differences in footwork and stuff like that make these styles very, very distinct from each other, but just for the sake of argument, for the sake of this conversation, they're basically the same. The stances have the same basic premise. They want to be stable on both feet, balanced weight on each, and there's a lot of wisdom behind having a stance like this, because it means you're harder to get off balance. Then you have the basic Capoeira stance, where you try to keep your head as far back as possible. Now, the advantage to Capoeira is the chances of you getting hit in the head, unless they counter a lunge from you, is very, very slim, because you're keeping your head back over your back foot. It's a fairly tanky stance. It's very defensive. Your forward foot is in a bit of danger because of how far forward it is, but it is a fairly defensive stance. It tends to utilize low guard, very similar to my style, which means the sword is low as opposed to up at mid-height where your chest is, or up high by your head. Just as an example, Tebow is a high guard stance, or I guess it's more of a mid guard, because you hold your arms straight out, and Fabris does the same but in a different way. So Fabris voids the body, and by void I mean you keep it back, because you make it almost impossible to hit. That's what your void is. It automatically voids the body, presenting only the head as a target, but then using your sword bell and your offhand, if you have one, to protect the head. This is an extremely difficult type of stance to fight against, because there's not a whole lot of things to hit. True, if you hit them, you're likely hitting them in the head, but your target zone is tiny and they don't have a whole lot to defend. You know, it's much easier to defend something that's only 12 inches in size than something... Oh, global, another 29 ped, excellent. It's easier to defend something that's only 12 inches in size than something that's, say, 3 feet. So it limits the number of actions that the practitioner has to make. It limits the number of choices they have to make at any given time, because they've cut down on the number of options in a good way. Like, there's only so many directions your opponent can attack from, and they've cut down on all of the excess. Now, Fabris has its weaknesses too. I have yet to learn them, but it does. And so I'm actually watching a lot of videos on Fabris. Like yesterday, I spent most of my lunch break watching Fabris videos to learn more about the style. I'm trying to practice the stance. It's very top heavy, and I have a hard time balancing that way. But I do want to learn it, because the only way you learn to fight against a style effectively is to practice it. And this I have learned. This is why I got better against Tebow. This is why I'm good against Capoeira. My first style was Capoeira. I started to learn Tebow. And I learned Tebow to a certain extent. I'm not terrific with Tebow, but I'm competent. I'm competent with Tebow. And actually, I'm competent with Tebow due to someone who would later become a Mason brother, and I didn't know it until I became a Mason that he was a Mason brother. I had already moved back to Vermont from North Dakota, but him and I, it would drive people mad because we'd stand there, and Tebow is a very small motion style, especially if you got two people practicing it. Fabris is the same way because they're both Spanish. Tebow, and by extent, and also Fabris, the practitioners, if you're watching it and you don't know what's going on, it'll be the most boring fight to watch in the world because there's almost no motion. Because you're just trying to gain advantage over your opponent's blade, and it's minute motions to do this because of the way the styles work, especially when they're fighting each other. And then what'll end up happening is someone will make a move or someone will make a mistake, and the other person will make a move, and it's all over. And that's generally how the two work. And so now I need to learn more about Fabris and learn how to fight in the style so I can fight against the style. And my hope is that I'm not boring everyone listening this to tears, because I could talk about fighting, fencing all night long. We've only been here 20 minutes. Sorry guys, I got a video message in. So, my lady's son is graduating. And if I was in Texas right now, I'd be there. She's there. I couldn't make it. And she sent a video of him walking. And I'm incredibly proud of him. He's done a lot of work. He's a great kid. Joining the Navy. He'll be leaving sometime, I think, in August. No, he's leaving in early September. We thought he was leaving in August. He's leaving in early September. Incredibly proud of him. So. Little boy's all grown up. So yeah, anyway. After the tournament, I was spent. It's 3 o'clock. I'm borderline heat exhaustion. I'm done. So I cleaned up after that and took my shower and relaxed. And then so Monday was cleanup day, and we did all the cleanup, and I think we started at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and we didn't finish until 2:30. I had to climb this damn hill with switchbacks to get to the cabins. That was fun, but it's part. I mean, it's part of it. We rent the camp. They provide all the support. They do a lot for us, and so we want to make sure we clean up after ourselves, and that's what we did. And I can't wait till next year. I know I'll do better. But I'm also looking forward to the next event, whatever that might be. And so there's one event Labor Day weekend that I'm hoping to go to, but it's right after my Texas trip, so I'm not sure that's going to be possible. But I'm going to make an effort. And I promised myself I'd make 4 events this year, and I'm someone who used to go to 10 events a year. I mean, that's a lot. And I mean, paring it back to 4 is a huge collapse of my normal schedule, but life changes. I've taken on this incredible second job where I make YouTube videos all the time. So I gotta kind of plan around that stuff. But I do have that plan. I'm gonna do these 4 events. I'm gonna fight in these 4 tournaments. I fought in the tournament at Burka in January, and my results weren't great, but you know what? That's fine. It was this was my second tournament. This is my second tournament in 2 years. I fought at Burka with too much on my mind. And I did a lot better when I got out of my head. I fought in this tournament. I was in the right mindset for the most part. For the most part. And so I am more satisfied with the results of this tournament than I am with the one at Burka. Now, admittedly, I'm someone who likes to move a lot, and Burka's very, very small Erics. That's what we would call the ring, an Eric. Like, there's a distance. The distance between fighters is called your measure, and your striking distance is the measure of you as a fighter. And so I like to start a battle outside my opponent's measure, outside my measure, so I can get a measure of my opponent. And at Burka, you start so close together, you're almost inside critical measure, which is that distance so that the distance between people so close that you cannot react to a move. That's critical measure. And only once have I seen someone block a move in critical measure. And that person was incredibly fast. And actually shocked the teacher for that event, that particular lesson too. And so that makes that tournament incredibly difficult. And it's a 3-hour endurance tournament to boot. But the tournament we had here at Panteria was 6 people in a round robin, which I was kind of hoping there would be more. But I mean, it is what it is. You know, people get tired, and it was at the end of the event. Or the fighting for the event. So, no big deal. I'm not going to make the big event during the summer. It's called, there are 2 huge events or 2 large events during the summer. One is called Pensic. And I'm sure anyone who's heard of the SCA has heard of Pensic. A lot of Rennies have heard of it too. It is 10,000 to 12,000 people at a campground in Pennsylvania in late July, early August for 2 weeks. It's literally the only transient municipality in America. They have their own mayor, they have their own ambulance service, and the city this takes place in pretty much is hands off. Like, they let them run it like it's its own municipality. As long as the basic laws are followed, they don't care. You know? And so, and not to say that, you know, the police wouldn't be called if something went seriously wrong, but, you know, Skadians are really good at policing each other and keeping things in check. And so, I've never gone there. I would love to go sometime, but we're talking, that's a $3,000 to $5,000 commitment. That's a $3,000 to $5,000 commitment I am not willing to make right now. Because I have more important things to do. Or I should say, I have higher priorities at this time. I won't say things are more important. I have higher priorities. Because I could prioritize Pensic and not go see the lady in Texas. And that would be bad. Global, 36 pet. This has been a good night for globals. This has been a good night for globals. That would not go over well. In fact, I think that would go over like a lead balloon. And the Mythbusters notwithstanding, we all know that that means it wouldn't go over at all. The other one is GNU, or Great Northeastern War. That one's more reasonable. I could do that on probably $100. The problem is I don't have the time off. And the timing isn't great. So that's not going to be possible either. It's a shame, but that's fine. So I'm going to find a 4th event. I'm going to try to make the one on Labor Day, because it's close and it's easy to get to, and a lot of people I know will go. And, you know, part of the reason we go to these events is to visit with our friends. And while I'm still cultivating relationships here, I don't have the entrenched relationships like I did in the Midwest. Part of the beauty of this organization is the fact that it's easy for you to move and make new friendships because you're basically all alike, right? This is your tribe. As much as I'm against ideological tribalism, this is my tribe. And so even when, you know, there's factors that may be disagreed with within that tribe, there's always a way to overcome it as long as people are willing to talk. So yeah, that was my event. I hope I didn't bore everyone away. I had a good time. Guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe down below. Make sure you check out my website, mcbainmanor.com. Link is in the description. And don't forget my sponsor, Critical Links. Link is also in the description. Guys, I really appreciate all of your support. Thank you for your patience with me this week. You all have a wonderful night.